Hey traders, this is our update for our first official month rolling out the portfolio margin strategy. If you're interested in making $250,000 a year potentially with a passive system, you might want to listen up. All right, let's get into this. So one of the things that I've noticed over doing this for, 40 plus years, working with over 150,000 traders all over the world, different continents, there seems to be three kinds of traders. The gambler, the person that's just trying to get going, and then the person that, for whatever reason, has had some success in life and has some assets. And we try to cater to all three of those categories in our live trading room. Of course, the number one most popular trade out there today is the 0 day to expiration trade, 0 DTE. It's a day trade. And if you wanted to ask the question, how can you make the most money or the highest ROI in the shortest period of time? Well, that's a day trade. It's always been a day trade. But it's a tough trade. It's a difficult trade. And it's not a trade that you should ever, in my opinion, do as a standalone trade. And so to me, I think we have a disproportionately large group of gamblers out there today. Of the three categories that people fall into, we've got a lot of gamblers out there. There are a lot of, because the 0 DTE is so popular, there are a lot of trading services out there that's all they provide. That's all they talk about. That's all they focus on is the 0 DTE. And because it is such a tough trade and such a poor, I think, risk-reward ratio trade, they've resorted largely to trading butterflies, which no one in the history of the world has ever made any real money with butterflies. So you say, well, they tell me all the time that they're making 500 to 1,000%. They are making 500 to 1,000% on $100 trades. A butterfly is a 15% probability of success trade. Nobody is going to put a meaningful amount. Nobody's going to put $250,000 into a butterfly trade. That's 15% probability of working out. That just doesn't make sense. So it is in essence gambling. It's fun. We trade 0 DTEs in our trading room every single day. In fact, we trade more than anybody that I know. We trade usually at least 10 to 12 of them per week. We trade a couple at least every single day. Sometimes we trade them on Sundays using the futures contracts. So we have a nice track record. I'm very proud of what we've done with 0 DTE, but it's not a standalone trade. It's the trade that everybody is interested in. It's probably the last trade that people should do. Second category is people that are just getting started, and that is probably where the bulk of the bell curve sits. You know, people between maybe $5,000 and $100,000. What I want to talk to you today about is that third category, people that have, for whatever reason, had some success in life. They've got some money that they can work with. This is a $300,000 strategy that we have put together. It's a strategy that I've used in my larger accounts for years and years and years and years, but we just officially rolled it out to the trading room last month. We call it the portfolio margin strategy. If you're not familiar with portfolio margin, what it is, how it can benefit you, some of the drawbacks of it, what that leverage can bring to the table in terms of ROI potential, I'll put a link down below in the description for our overview video of our portfolio margin system. But suffice it to say that you get a lot better leverage with portfolio margin. However, brokers differ. But at Tasty Trade, which is where most of us trade, you have to have about $175,000 to qualify for portfolio margin, and then you have to have a maintenance amount of $150,000. So you got to maintain $150,000 in your account. So you may think that this strategy is not for everybody, and it's not, but it is for more people than you might imagine. Yes, I'm using $300,000 of my own money to trade this system and these strategies and these setups, but you can get away with a lot less. So we'll talk about that here as we roll this out. Let's talk about what it is that we're doing. Again, if you're not familiar with this, I'll put a link in the description box below. But there are essentially 4 categories that we work on inside of this system, plus one additional addition to the portfolio. And so we'll talk about this here in just a second. So basically there's 5 components to the system here. I've got 4 of the main ones listed. The 5th one I'll talk about here in just a second. There's nothing special here. These are, meaning, well, they are special, but they are not new strategies to the trading room. We have just a in-the-money covered wheel trade. So most of you are familiar with wheel trades. You may not be familiar with our approach of doing an in-the-money cover on them. We've got plenty of videos on our YouTube channel about that. But this is just an in-the-money cover. We're starting off using KRE. Over time, the ticker symbols and the underlines change with this. But right now, KRE, excuse me, it's a regional bank ETF. That's something that I would be comfortable owning. So I'm trying to own about 3,000 shares there, so I'm using 30 contracts on that. MSTR, this is just a credit strangle. This is a trade that we've been doing for years now. Right now in our live trading room, we are using PayPal, PYPL, and Netflix as our 2 weekly credit strangles. That's all this is as well, except we're looking for something that has a very high IV. It's tough to get something that has a higher IV than MSTR for sure. And then the RUT Millionaire Maker, again, this is not something new to our trading room. The Millionaire Maker trade is something that we have done here for years and years and years, only with the IWM, something that is tracking the Russell, but obviously much smaller buying power. We're doing the Theta Ferry. Again, it's nothing new here. We've done the Theta Ferry forever in our live trading room. We're just adding more contracts to it now because we have more buying power. And then last but not least is the, let me see if I can write this out for you. It's the 1 day to expiration NQ in the money cover trade. Lots of words, lots of verbiage, but it is a daily trade that we do. The goal with that particular trade is $200 a day. Okay, so these are the 5 components that make up this portfolio. We started this trade on June 6th. So the goal with this system was about $300,000. Well, not about, exactly. $300,000 is what I put into my live account. $300,000 of cash. We utilize about $210,000 of it. So we have a pretty decent buffer for things to ebb and flow and for potential adjustments if needed to be made. We start with $300,000 of buying power of cash. We're looking to bring in roughly $16,000 a month in monthly income. Okay. Now, different trades serve different purposes. We have an ATM, an asymmetric trade management passive portfolio asset allocation model. It's investing. It's not trading. I've got about $70,000, started with about $23,000. We've grown that to $70,000 now in that program. I don't plan on ever touching that money. I don't plan on ever needing that money. That's for my retirement. That's for generational wealth. I'm going to build that to 100,000, then $250,000, and then $500,000, and then $1 million. And hopefully I don't ever need that money and it just goes to my kids as generational wealth. Well, this plan is very different from that. This plan is about weekly and monthly income. This plan is what I intend to use to feed my family, keep a roof over my head, keep the lights on, etc., etc. So this is about cash flow. This is about taking money out. Your balance in this system should never go above your initial contribution because you're pulling that out as income. This is your paycheck, okay? So the question that we have is, how did we do for our first month? Now, I was a little concerned, not concerned, but just wanted to make everybody in the program aware that we did start on June 6th, not June 1st. So, we're already kind of starting a little bit behind the eight ball, and, starting a week down, basically, so to speak. Well, it ended up being a pretty darn solid month for us. Our KRE position brought in $4,700 of profit or cash flow. Better word is cash flow because we're spending that. We're living on that. Our MSTR position brought in $6,200 of cash flow. Our Russell trade brought in just about $6,000. It's just about, after you take out about $350 of fees, it was almost exactly $6,000. On that particular trade, our Theta Ferry, it varies quite a bit each month. Number one, because we're going to do between 4 and 5 contracts, but we start with one contract on a high probability fill. There's a lot of days where we don't get the fills on the additional contracts. So obviously the Theta Ferry's goal is $100 a day per contract, right? Per contract. So if we've got 5 contracts on, that's $500 a day. If we only get one contract on, that's $100 a day. So it does vary over time. I was really interested to see how many of these darn things we'd actually get filled over the basically 3 weeks that we had in June. It ended up being pretty good. We ended up with $2,100 of cash flow off of these particular trades, okay? And then last but not least was the NQ trade. And the NQ trade was, again, shooting for $200 a day. We brought in just under $2,000 of cash flow there, okay? So the sum total for the whole program was a whopping $21,000 roughly of income for the month of June. That's what we brought in, was $21,000. That's not extrinsic value. That's cold hard cash that we brought in on the program. Now, months are going to vary. Obviously, you guys know that. We try very hard here to ramp down expectations. But that was obviously a pretty solid start to the program. We're shooting for $16,000 a month. We started with about 1 week in the hole, and we absolutely just killed it with $21,000 of income on the month. This is my main approach to trying to feed my family. Again, keep a roof over the head, keep the lights on, all that good stuff. Keep my kid in school, all of the bills that we all have to pay. Now, a couple of things that I will say about this. Number one, this is a strategy for serious people. Every once in a while, I have somebody that comes into the trading room and says, I want to focus on being a full-time trader. I want to give up my job. And my first question is, how much capital do you have? Well, I have $5,000. Okay. Probably not the right time to try to become a full-time trader, right? But when you start getting into portfolio margin levels, and you start getting above that $150,000 to $175,000 mark, and you start getting added leverage, depending on what you need on a monthly basis, you can actually start to look at supplanting what your earned income is. So obviously, this was, without question, an above average month for us. I do not anticipate that we are going to bring in $21,000 a month. In fact, our goal is $16,000 a month. Okay. This month of July that we're in right now, pretty good example. First 2 weeks of this month, we were just chasing a lot of these trades. They're starting to cash flow quite nicely for us now. But you guys understand, that's the marketplace. Things ebb and flow. Sometimes you're going to have an amazing month. Sometimes you're going to have a lower month. But that's $16,000 a month, $200,000 to maybe as much as $250,000 a year in income. That's a real goal. That's not pie in the sky goal, okay? Now, one thing that I do want to talk about with regards to this, if you're like, yeah, all this is doing is depressing me because I don't have $300,000, okay? Well, a couple of things that I'll just share with you. Number one, we're already doing the in-the-money covered wheel trade inside of our live trading room. We've got a trade on right now with that particular strategy with Tesla, with Coin, with Carvana, with CCL, with Win, with FSLR. We've got a half a dozen of these already working inside of our trading room. I'm looking at the buying power requirements on some of these. It's $2,000, $3,000. Okay, so you don't have to do this at the level that we're doing with portfolio margin. The only difference is your returns will be lower because you don't have the portfolio margin leverage. Okay, same thing applies to MSTR. We're doing that every single week with something. You just don't quite have the same leverage. We're doing the RUT Millionaire Maker every single week. We've done it every single week for the last 3 years. We've never had a losing trade in that strategy, but we're using the IWM. It's a lot smaller. And again, you're not going to get the buying power leverage in it, but you still can do the trade. This is a trade for us that we've been doing for 3 years with the IWM that has been averaging about 50% a year ROI over 3 years. And we've never had a losing trade in it. We've never taken a loss in that trade. Knock on wood. At some point we will. It's how all trades work, but nevertheless has a high level of consistency. The Theta Fairy. Now, let's talk about these. You can do the Theta Fairy inside of our account. These are futures contracts, so portfolio margin doesn't help us with the futures contract. We don't get any benefit there. So other than position sizing, other than maybe we're doing 4 or 5 contracts and you're doing 1 contract, most of our members, regardless of how little amount they have, we have members that have less than $25,000, so they have to deal with PDT. They're still doing a Theta Fairy contract and looking to bring in $100 a month on $100 a day on 1 contract. This could be $20,000 a year just on 1 contract. So you don't have to have $300,000 to do that. And on the NQ trade, that is a $20,000 trade. Now, we don't get any benefit from portfolio margin on that trade because, again, it's a futures contract. It is a $20,000 trade, okay? However, some of our members feel like the NQ trade is actually better than the Theta Fairy trade. Theta Fairy trade, we have to put up $12,000 per contract for 1 contract, okay? And we have a goal of bringing in $100 a day, okay? It's been great. We've been averaging that. We've been very, very consistent in that. We've done it every single day of the year, save for Fridays. We do it on Sunday. We start on a Sunday. We end on a Thursday. We've had 2 of those this entire year that haven't worked out for us. 2. The NQ trade, though, $20,000 of capital, $200 a day of income potential on that trade. You can see that, $20,000 for a $200 day versus $12,000 for a $100 day. There's actually a little bit better leverage in the NQ. So it is $20,000, but I guess my point with this is that number one, you don't need $300,000. Okay, you could actually do this whole strategy with $150,000. Number one, that still gives you portfolio margin at Tasty Trade. Some brokers might require a little bit more, but it still gives you portfolio margin leverage. You would do all of these strategies just like we do them now with the $300,000 account. You just do them half the size. You just do them half the size. You don't have $150,000. You can still do all of these strategies in our model portfolio. We're doing them already every day with an account that has 100,000 of my dollars in it. We're just doing it at smaller quantities. Okay, you're not going to get the leverage, but you can still do it. So anyway, just wanted to share our first month's update. I'm late giving these, so it's July 24th right now. So next week we'll have the July update for you and see where we're at with that. But it's been an awesome strategy, to say the least. If you are a serious trader, not if you're a gambler. If all you're interested in is gambling with zero DTEs using butterflies, that's not anything to do with investing or trading. That's just gambling. Okay. If you want to take your game to a higher level and you want to look at some of these unique setups and strategies that we use that I don't see anybody else out there using, we'd love to have you come join us. You can go to tradelivewithus.com, and I think you're going to be absolutely blown away by the experience. If you go through the 4 hours of training that I give you, if you meet with me one-on-one in a Zoom session, if you follow through on the daily connecting and conversations and updates, if you stay in touch with me every day, and you get to the end of your first month and you don't feel like this is the highest value trading room opportunity online today, I will give you double your subscription fee back. Won't even ask you why. Okay? I've never had to do that. We believe as members of this trading room that there is no higher level trading room that you can be a part of. When you come in and see our trades, I think you'll agree. So we'd love to have you guys. Hope that gives you some insight into what we're doing in the trading room on a daily basis. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.